I never planned to go through my wife's phone. That morning, I wasn't suspicious, I wasn't jealous. I just needed an internet connection. Our Wi-Fi had been down since the night before, and I had an important video meeting in less than 20 minutes. The storm at dawn had left the air outside heavy with the smell of wet asphalt, and raindrops still clung to the edges of the window glass. Emma's phone was lying on the hallway table, half covered by yesterday's unopened mail, and a wrinkled grocery receipt for bananas, almond milk, and a bottle of Sauvignon Blanc. I picked it up without thinking, intending to turn on the hotspot for my laptop. "Hey, you left your phone here." I called toward the bathroom, where the steady rush of the shower and the hum of the extractor fan swallowed my voice. The phone felt warm in my hand, its smooth silicone case familiar from the countless times I'd seen her scrolling in bed. I unlocked it without hesitation. We knew each other's passcodes. At least, I thought that meant something. My thumb hovered over the settings icon, ready to switch on the hotspot, when a notification slid down from the top of the screen. Can't stop thinking about last night. My stomach tightened instantly. The contact name was just M. No surname, no emoji, nothing else. For a split second, I told myself it was her friend Mia, but Mia wouldn't send something like that at 8:17 in the morning. Before I could even breathe, another message appeared. Same time tonight. My pulse spiked. I could feel the blood rushing in my ears, the shower still hissing in the background. I glanced toward the bathroom door, still closed. My finger tapped the message thread almost on its own, and what I saw made my knees weak. There were messages from the past few weeks, each one like a slow twist of a knife. Flirty jokes, late night, wish you were here, texts. Photos of wine glasses clinking over candlelight. The most recent ones were worse. Descriptions of things they had done together. Things Emma had never done with me in 7 years of marriage. I read one line twice, my brain refusing to process it the first time. "I still taste you on my lips." I put the phone down on the table as if it had burned me. My breathing was uneven, shallow, and for a moment, I wondered if I might actually pass out. From behind the bathroom door, I could hear Emma humming along to some song on the radio, completely oblivious to the fact that her life, our life, had just changed forever. My first instinct was to storm in there, to throw the phone at her feet and demand answers. But something in me froze. Instead, I picked the phone back up, my hands trembling so badly I almost dropped it, and scrolled further up the conversation. 2 weeks ago. "Em, I can't stop thinking about your hands. Last month. Wish we could spend the whole weekend together, no interruptions." And then a string of heart emojis. I checked the timestamps. Half of these messages had been sent while I was at work, the other half late at night when I thought she was asleep beside me. A sour, metallic taste filled my mouth. I typed the number into my own phone to see if I had it saved. No match. Whoever M was, they weren't part of our mutual circle, or at least, they weren't supposed to be. I went back to her phone, opened her photo gallery, and scrolled. Most of the pictures were innocent. Selfies, our dog on the couch, random shots of her lunch for Instagram. But then, tucked between photos of her manicure and a sunset, I found one that made my hands go cold. It was Emma, smiling, in a dimly lit restaurant I'd never been to, holding a glass of wine. And across the table, partially visible, was a man's arm. Tan skin, a leather watch, and a wedding band on his finger. The shower stopped. Panic surged through me. I quickly locked the phone, put it back exactly where I'd found it, and walked into the kitchen, trying to make it look like I'd been making coffee the whole time. My heart was still pounding when she walked in, wrapped in a towel, her hair dripping. "Hey," she said casually, as if nothing in the world was wrong. I forced a smile and handed her a mug. "Morning." She took the coffee, sipped it, and leaned against the counter. Her phone buzzed on the hallway table. I watched her glance toward it, a flicker of something, nervousness, passing across her face before she walked over and picked it up. She read the screen quickly, then turned her back to me, typing something with rapid, deliberate movements. When she turned around again, her expression was perfectly neutral. I felt like I was looking at a stranger. 7 years together, and suddenly I wasn't sure I knew her at all. I told myself to wait, to gather more proof before confronting her. It wasn't just about catching her in a lie. It was about understanding who M was, and how long this had been going on. But as I stood there, watching her laugh at some joke she didn't share with me, I realized I might not like the answers I was going to find. That night, after she fell asleep, I lay awake in the dark, listening to her steady breathing. The glow from her phone charger lit up the corner of the room. I knew I couldn't touch her phone now. She'd know I'd been looking, but I had another idea. In the morning, when she went for her run, I'd check our home Wi-Fi router's logs. If M had been texting her from home, the IP addresses would be there. And maybe, just maybe, I could trace them back to whoever he was. I didn't know then that what I was about to uncover would not only confirm my worst fears, but reveal a betrayal so deep, it would make me question every moment of our marriage. The name MD Phone burned in my brain like a warning siren. My first thought was ridiculous. Maybe it stood for main device or some other harmless label. But deep down I knew. The coincidence was too sharp, too perfect. My hands shook as I closed the laptop. I didn't have time to dig deeper. Emma would be back any minute. When she returned, her cheeks flushed from the run, she looked calm. Too calm. Like someone who had nothing to hide, or someone who had already decided to keep hiding it perfectly. She set her phone on the counter, grabbed a bottle of water, and asked about my meeting. I lied. Said it went fine. Inside, I was replaying every recent conversation, every time she'd smiled at her screen when she thought I wasn't looking. The rest of the day crawled. At dinner, she laughed at some joke on her phone, typing quickly before sliding it face down beside her plate. I tried to eat, but each chew felt mechanical, tasteless. Finally, I said, "Who's M?" She froze for a millisecond, almost imperceptible, but I saw it. Then she shrugged. "Mia, you know her. We've been catching up." I stared at her. Mia doesn't sign her messages with just an initial. She chuckled, forcing lightness. "Babe, you're overthinking. It's nothing." Her tone was too smooth, too prepared. That night, after she fell asleep, I slipped out of bed and went to the living room. I sat there in the dark, the hum of the fridge the only sound, and decided I wasn't going to just sit back. If she was meeting him again, I'd find out. The next 2 days I acted normal, overly normal, even. I asked about her work, brought home her favorite coffee, pretended nothing was wrong. But inside my chest was a storm. On Friday, she told me she had a late appointment at the salon. I knew this was it. The moment. I waited until she left, then grabbed my jacket and followed her car at a safe distance. It felt insane, like something out of a bad movie, but the need to know outweighed my shame. She drove across town, past the salon completely, and into a quieter neighborhood lined with tall oaks and dim streetlights. She pulled into the driveway of a small, modern house with black trim. Another car was already there, a silver sedan. I parked a block away and walked up the sidewalk slowly, my heart hammering so loud I thought someone might hear it. Through the sheer curtains, I saw her, Emma, taking off her coat, her smile wide in a way I hadn't seen in months. A man walked into view. Tall, athletic build, dark hair, maybe late 30s. He put his hands on her waist like he'd done it 100 times. She didn't flinch. She leaned in. They kissed. Not a quick hello, a slow, lingering kiss, the kind you give someone you've missed. I backed away before they could see me. My stomach churned. I wanted to storm in, to rip the door open and shout her name, but I couldn't. Not yet. I needed more than just a sighting. I needed something undeniable. I walked back to my car, sat there with my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. Finally, I drove home, my head full of images I couldn't erase. The smell of her perfume was still in the car from earlier that day, and it made me feel sick. Over the next week, I became an investigator in my own marriage. Every excuse she made, every time she left the house, I took notes. I checked bank statements, small charges at cafes I'd never heard of, movie tickets, dinners for two. One receipt showed a bottle of wine identical to the one I'd seen in her grocery list the morning I found the messages. One evening, while she was in the shower, I opened her laptop, something I'd never done before. She'd left it unlocked. In her email drafts, there were unsent messages to M. One read, "Can't wait for our trip. He still has no idea." My hands went cold. A trip? When? Where? I dug deeper and found a booking confirmation in her email for a romantic weekend getaway at a lakeside cabin. This very weekend. 2 guests. Check-in Friday night. The reservation was under his name, Michael Davis. MD. My vision tunneled. It was all there. The messages, the secret meetings, the lies. And now a weekend away, like our marriage was nothing more than a cover for her real life. I closed the laptop just as she came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, smiling at me. She asked if I wanted tea. I nodded, unable to speak, my throat tight with anger I had to choke down. Because now I had a choice: confront her immediately, or wait until the trip and catch her in the act. I decided to wait. But waiting meant pretending for another 3 days. 3 days of eating breakfast together, of hearing her call me babe, and kiss my cheek before leaving for work. 3 days of lying next to her in bed while she texted him under the covers. Each night, I rehearsed what I'd say. Each morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. By Thursday, I barely recognized myself in the mirror. My eyes were dark, my jaw tight, my shoulders tense. Friday came. She packed a small suitcase, telling me she had a salon training retreat out of town. She kissed me goodbye at the door, her lips warm, her scent familiar and foreign all at once. I watched her drive away, then grabbed my own bag, packed with a camera, a notepad, and enough determination to burn the truth into reality. I followed her out of the city, staying far enough back that she wouldn't notice. The road narrowed into winding country lanes, trees arching overhead like a tunnel. Finally, she turned down a gravel driveway and parked outside a cabin with a view of the lake. Michael Davis was already there, leaning against his car. She ran to him. They hugged like lovers who'd been apart for years, not days. Then he kissed her, long, deep, and in a way that left no doubt. I stayed hidden, my camera clicking quietly as I captured every moment. Her smile, his hands on her, the way she touched his face like it was the most natural thing in the world. Every photo was a nail in the coffin of our marriage. And yet, even with proof in my hands, I didn't feel relief. Just a cold, sinking emptiness. Because now I knew for certain, and certainty hurt worse than suspicion ever could. I drove back from the lake in silence, the rhythmic thump of the tires on the uneven road doing nothing to calm me. Every time I blinked, I saw them. Her hand on his chest, the tilt of her head when she laughed at something he said. That look in her eyes, the one I thought was mine alone. It was like my mind had turned into a cruel projector, replaying the same scene over and over. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the sun was sliding low, casting long shadows over the street. Our house looked the same from the outside. Neat lawn, the flower pots she insisted on planting each spring, but to me, it felt hollow. Inside, the familiar scent of the vanilla candle she always lit in the evenings filled the air. It should have been comforting, but it felt like a lie. I stood in the entryway for a moment, just breathing, trying to decide if I even wanted to step further inside. I went straight to my laptop, my hands still trembling slightly. The photos from the cabin came up on the screen, one by one. Emma's smile, his arms around her, the kiss. I copied them into a folder and named it Truth. Setting the password felt like locking away a part of myself. When Emma came home later that night, she looked relaxed, too relaxed. Her cheeks were flushed, her hair a little messy. She dropped her bag on the couch and kissed me on the cheek, smelling faintly of wine. Training went great, she said, tossing her jacket over a chair. I stared at her for a long moment, wondering if she could see the shift in my eyes. But she just smiled and headed to the kitchen, humming under her breath. I ate dinner with her that night, listening to her talk about work while I pushed food around my plate. I nodded at the right times, even laughed once or twice. But in my head, every word she said was being translated into something else. Lies, deflection, distraction. She looked me in the eye, and I wondered if she knew I had been at the cabin. If she did, she hid it well. The next morning, I decided I couldn't carry this weight alone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Ryan, an old friend from college who now worked in private security. We hadn't spoken in over a year. When he answered, his voice was exactly the same, casual and steady. "Hey man, long time. What's up?" "I need your help," I said, my voice lower than usual. "It's personal." There was a pause, then how bad? Bad enough that I need to know everything about someone. Discreetly. "Give me the number," he said without hesitation. That night, Emma fell asleep beside me, her breathing deep and even. I stared at the ceiling, the glow from the street lamp slicing a thin line across the room. I wondered if she was dreaming about him, if she thought of me at all anymore. The next few days were torture. I kept up the act, the husband who asked about her day, who brought home her favorite coffee, who pretended to watch TV while she texted someone under a blanket. Every time her phone buzzed, My ears pricked like an animal sensing danger. Once, while she was cooking, I caught her smiling at the screen, her thumbs moving fast. When she noticed me watching, she flipped the phone over and asked me to grab the salt. By Thursday, Ryan called back. "You were right," he said. "She's been meeting him at least twice a week. Coffee shops, restaurants, the cabin. Sometimes he picks her up 2 streets over from your place so you won't see the car." I gripped the phone tighter. "His name?" "Michael Davis," Ryan said. "And he's married. 2 kids. Lives on the other side of town." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just me she was betraying. There was another woman, 2 children, probably thinking he was out working late while he was with my wife. The unfairness of it made my hands shake. That evening, Emma came home later than usual. She was wearing a different perfume, something floral I didn't recognize. She leaned down to kiss me, and I caught a faint trace of wine on her breath. "How was your day?" she asked casually. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, "Fine. You?" "Busy," she said, moving toward the bedroom. Later that night, while she was in the shower, her phone lit up beside me on the couch. The name M glowed against the dark screen. "Thinking about you. Can't wait for tomorrow." Tomorrow was Friday. My stomach tightened. I knew exactly what tomorrow meant. I set the phone back down carefully, my hands tense, my chest buzzing with adrenaline. When she came back into the room, wrapped in her robe, she smiled like nothing was wrong. I forced myself to smile back, even as my mind began stitching together a plan. Because this wasn't just about catching her anymore. This was about making sure she couldn't deny it, couldn't spin it, couldn't escape the truth when I finally laid it in front of her. Friday morning felt like walking through a dream I couldn't wake up from. Emma moved around the kitchen in her robe, humming quietly, completely unaware that every move she made felt rehearsed to me now. She poured coffee, slid my mug across the table, and asked what I had planned for the day. I lied, told her I had errands, maybe some work to catch up on. In reality, I had one goal: follow her without being seen. She left just before noon, suitcase in hand. Her training retreat excuse still echoing in my head. I waited a full 5 minutes before slipping out the door, my camera bag already packed in the back seat. The sky was overcast, the kind that turns everything a shade of dull gray. It matched my mood perfectly. On the highway, I stayed 3 cars behind her. Her taillights were a small, constant pulse in the distance, leading me away from the city and into quieter roads lined with bare trees. My mind ran through every possible outcome. Catching them in public, catching them in private, confronting them right there, or holding back. Each scenario ended with the same sick feeling in my stomach. Eventually, she turned down a narrow road that wound toward the lake. I slowed, letting another car slip between us, and watched her pull into the same gravel driveway as last week. Michael's silver sedan was already parked there, dust on the hood from the road. He came out to greet her, wearing a navy jacket and a grin that made my skin crawl. They hugged. Too long. Too close. I snapped photos through the zoom lens, each click of the shutter like a hammer driving another nail into my chest. They carried her suitcase inside, his hand resting on the small of her back. I stayed parked far enough to avoid notice, but close enough to keep my camera trained on the cabin. For the next 2 hours, I documented everything I could, them on the porch drinking wine, leaning into each other, laughing like they had no secrets to hide. At one point, she pulled out her phone and took a selfie with him, kissing his cheek as she snapped the picture. That hit me harder than anything else. Because selfies weren't for him. They were for keeping, for showing, for memories she clearly wanted to hold on to. Around mid-afternoon, Michael left in his car. I debated following him, but something told me to stay. 15 minutes later, a delivery van pulled up, food, wine, and what looked like flowers. The driver smiled at Emma, handed her the bags, and drove off. She took everything inside, closing the door behind her. I sat there for almost another hour before my phone buzzed. It was Ryan. "Got something for you," he said. I stepped out of the car, keeping my voice low. "Go ahead." Michael's wife filed for separation 3 months ago. Guess why? She caught him cheating, and not just with your wife. He's done this before. The air felt even colder. Emma wasn't special to him. She was just the next in a line. And she was throwing away everything we'd built for someone who didn't even value her. By the time Michael came back, the sun was setting over the lake, casting long streaks of orange across the water. They sat on the porch steps, sipping wine. I could hear faint laughter carried by the wind, and for a second, I felt detached from myself, like I was watching a stranger's life fall apart, not my own. I took one last series of photos, then packed up my camera. I had enough now. Enough to end this. But as I started the car, I realized I didn't just want to end it. I wanted her to see what I saw, to feel the moment the truth hit, with no escape. And so I decided, tomorrow, she wouldn't come home to the life she left. She'd come home to the truth, laid out in a way she couldn't deny. I didn't sleep the night before the confrontation. I lay on the couch in the faint glow from the streetlight, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the tick of the wall clock. Every sound felt louder than it should. Every minute felt like an hour. By dawn, I knew exactly what I wanted. Not shouting, not chaos, but truth. I set the living room like a stage. The coffee table became an exhibit. Printed photos from the cabin, each one sharp and undeniable. A typed timeline of dates, receipts, router logs, and screenshots. And on top, an envelope with Michael Davis's name, address, and the note about his wife and kids. When I looked at it all together, it felt clinical, but it was the only way I could keep my voice steady when the moment came. Around 9, Emma texted, "Back early today, smiley face." The smiley felt like a knife wrapped in paper. I spent the next hours pacing, rehearsing what I'd say, then scrapping it, then starting over. Nothing sounded right in my head. Just after 1, the door opened. She stepped inside, suitcase rolling, her perfume drifting ahead of her like a ghost. "Hey," she began, then froze when she saw the table. Her eyes scanned the photos, then the papers, then me. "What is this?" she asked, her voice low. "Everything you didn't tell me," I said. She blinked, her jaw tightening. "Where did you get these?" "At the lake," I said. "I followed you." She set her suitcase down carefully, as if moving too fast might make it worse. "I can explain." "I don't want a story," I said. "I want the truth." Her shoulders slumped. It wasn't supposed to happen. I met him at the coffee shop near the salon. We talked, he came back, and I started looking forward to it. I felt seen. "By a married man with 2 kids," I said, my voice sharper. "I didn't know at first," she said quickly. "When I did, I should have stopped. I didn't. I was lonely. You were always working and I was working for us." I cut in. "For the down payment, for the future we talked about. I thought I was building something for both of us." She looked down at the floor. "I know, and I hated that I resented you for it. I made the worst choice I could." 3 months. I asked. She hesitated, then nodded. I told her what I knew about Michael, that his wife had filed for separation after catching him cheating before. She flinched, eyes widening. "I found out 2 weeks ago," she said softly. "I wanted to end it. I didn't know how to tell you without destroying us." I stepped closer to the table. "You destroyed us the day you chose him over talking to me." Her lips trembled. "Are you ending it?" "I'm ending the part where I carry your secret," I said. Her eyes glistened. "I didn't stop loving you," she whispered. "I know that makes it worse." "It does," I said simply. She nodded slowly. "I'll go to my sister's. I'll tell his wife. I'll end it today." "Do it because it's right," I said. "Not because I'm watching." She left the room to pack. I stayed where I was, staring at the photos until my vision blurred. When she returned with her bag, she paused at the doorway. "I'm sorry," she said. "Not the empty kind of sorry, but the kind that comes from somewhere deep and ragged. If you never forgive me, I will still be sorry." I didn't answer. She walked out, and the sound of her footsteps faded down the stairs. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Is this Andrew?" "This is Claire Davis. Emma told me. Can I call you?" When I answered, her voice was steady but tired. "She told me everything," Claire said. "I just wanted you to know, you're not alone in this. He's been doing this for years. I'm sorry it was your turn." "I have proof," I said. "If you need it." "I don't," she replied. "But thank you. At least now I know I wasn't crazy." After we hung up, the house felt different. Not lighter, but stripped of illusions. That night, Emma texted. I told her. I ended it. "I'm at my sister's. I won't contact you unless you say it's okay." I typed back. "Thank you for telling her. I don't know where this ends. Maybe we rebuild. Maybe we don't. For now, I have air in my lungs, and a truth solid enough to stand on. And if you were me, would you try to rebuild with the person who broke you? Or would you walk away toward a life with fewer shadows?"